what would you say is the worst film ever made? If you said 1997's Batman and Robin from director Joel Schumacher and starring George Clooney and the Governator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you'd be wrong. There's plenty worse trash out there. I mean, have you seen Beverly Hills Chihuahua? But still, you'd be on the right lines. Ain't that right, George?
Because didn't you apologise to the crowd at Comic-Con for Batman and Robin?
I always apologise for Batman.
But yeah, if you know comic book movies, or just films in general, you'll probably be familiar with Batman and Robin, the final entry in the series that started in 1989 with Tim Burton's Batman, widely derided by critics and fans alike for being ridiculously cartoony and over the top, in stark contrast to the darker and more gritty approach of the earlier installments. And since the film was pretty much just a massive toy commercial, and because this was the 90s, of course it had a video game tie-in. Oh Jesus. So yeah, is the game as bad as the film? Well, let's put on our capes and masks and grab our bat boomerang thingamajigs and find out. May God help us all. But before we do that, we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we're making good progress. So if you enjoy my content and have yet to subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it if you would do so. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. So Batman and Robin was developed by Probe Entertainment. What the hell kind of name is Probe Entertainment? Who came up with that? Sounds like the name of some bizarre fetish site or something. But as it turns out, the name is actually rather appropriate, considering you're just asking to be probed somewhere you won't like it if you play this shit. And it was published in 1998 by Acclaim Entertainment. See, now that's a decent name, if completely inappropriate, because this piece of shit isn't deserving of acclaim whatsoever. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So we get started okay. Not really sure what that was in aid of, but whatever. Anyway, we hit new game, and if you've seen the film, then you'll probably remember the opening. You know, the suit-up montage, the bat nipples and bat arses, the Batmobile. Honestly, looking back on it, it's kind of badass, in a silly and strangely homoerotic sort of way. Oh, look at those buns. But what I bet you don't remember is the bit where Batman has to fuck around on the Batcomputer to figure out where he's supposed to go. Yeah, we start off in the Batcave just like in the film, but before we can go and take on the Austrian Oak, we've first got to use the Batcomputer to analyse clues to figure out where we need to go. Cause that sounds like fun, right? So yeah, you've got a couple clues to analyse, including two halves of a poster which you can combine together like in Resident Evil, I guess. Oh, won't be the last time you'll be hearing that. Which tells us that, oh, obviously, Mr. Freeze is planning a heist at the museum to steal the Sudan diamond or some shit. Yeah, it's so obvious, I'm not really sure why we need to bother messing around on the computer to figure that shit out. But anyway, now that we know where we're going, we just need to jump in the Batmobile and... Oh no, it's gonna be one of those, is it? Yeah, the movement in this game, to sum it up in the most efficient way possible, is absolutely fucking terrible. No joke, this is worse than the Mummy and Croc combined. It's seriously that bad. I mean, first of all, the game uses tank controls, again like Resident Evil, which is bad enough by itself. I hate that shit. But on top of that, the movement's just so heavy and clunky to the point where it almost feels like you're walking around on fucking Jupiter. And yes, I know Jupiter's a gas giant and doesn't have a surface, so you can't actually walk on it, you know what I mean. So it's virtually impossible to move with precision, and it just doesn't feel good in the slightest. So yeah, that's gonna be fun to deal with. Oh, and just like in Medieval, you can toggle between walking and running, just for some reason. I mean, it's not like Batman moves much faster when he runs, so why not just make him run by default? Anyway, after you manage to get a relatively decent handle on the movement, you jump in the Batmobile, which admittedly does look pretty cool. And oh my god, are we actually gonna get to drive to the museum? Yes! Oh, this is gonna be insane. So yeah, once we get out of the Batcave, the game pretty much turns into GTA. Yeah, another one. We've been seeing a lot of that lately. I'm actually genuinely surprised by how many games were doing this kind of thing back then. Again, I guess I just assumed GTA 3 was the first, which actually it very much wasn't. But yeah, you can just go driving around the city in the Batmobile, there's other vehicles on the road, there's pedestrians, you can go exploring on foot, so yeah, it's pretty much open world. Oh, and when I say it turns into GTA, yeah, I'm not joking. You can go driving on the sidewalk right through all the innocent civilians in your path, and they don't even get out the way or phase through you or anything like we've seen in most of these other wimpy ass games. Now you can actually hurt and kill them with virtually no repercussions whatsoever. I mean, what happened to the whole Batman doesn't kill thing? What, does vehicular manslaughter not count? And on top of that, the Batmobile's got guns what you can use to destroy vehicles, including civilian cars, and also gun down random people in the street as well. You can just kill them. And they don't just die either. No, instead they explode into a million shards of glass or whatever. Which, one, fuck me, that's fucking brutal. It's almost as bad as that shit in the Phantom Menace. And two, what the fuck are these people made out of? What are they, like those weird crystalline things from Elden Ring or something? And again, this is all almost without any consequences, apart from losing a bit of health every time you shoot someone and some whiny little message saying, "Oh, you hurt a civilian, feel their pain." I do feel their pain, that's why I do it. You see, I get off on the pain of others. That's what over 2 decades of pixelated violence will do to you. The cops don't even come after you if you go around slaughtering the poor innocent Gothamites. Hell, you can kill the cops and nothing will happen. No wonder Gotham City has such a high crime rate. So yeah, that's fun and all, or it would be, but what about the driving itself? I mean, we've already seen that the on-foot movement's pretty shit, but what about the driving, I hear you ask? Well, put it this way, if I needed to apologise to Driver after GTA, then after this I need to get down on my knees and give that game the wettest, sloppiest foot massage the world's ever seen. Yeah, the driving's just as bad as the on-foot movement. It's just as janky and imprecise, but actually also feels way lighter despite the fact that the Batmobile should be heavier than the man himself. You know, cause it's a fucking car. And the controls are also super oversensitive, to the point where if you're on DualShock and using the sticks, it's virtually impossible to go in a straight line since the slightest movement will send you careening all over the place. And it's really easy to overshoot turns and go crashing into shit. In fact, it happens at practically every turn if you're going anywhere above like 5 miles an hour or something. But then when you're trying to turn, the steering will suddenly get really heavy and clunky, which again makes it easy to crash, and it's annoying trying to get yourself turned around as well. It almost feels more like you're steering a boat than a car, on a fucking ice rink, which when I think about it seems kind of appropriate. But yeah, that's just great. And to make things even more annoying, I guess since they realised, oh, driving around this mostly empty city just to get to where the story's happening is actually pretty damn boring, their solution was to make it so you can barely go 5 feet without some fucker trying to kill you. Yeah, pretty much as soon as you make it out of Wayne Manor, you'll constantly be under attack from guys, I don't know, working for Mr. Freeze, I guess. I mean, you do have killer ice cream trucks coming after you, along with these generic APC things and motorbikes and shit. And like I say, it's pretty much constant. You can barely go 30 seconds without some wanker coming after you, which I guess gives you something to do on the way to your objective. But it's not fun, it's mostly just irritating. I mean, first of all, the draw distance is really short, and you're moving really fast, so you've got these fucking kamikaze ice cream trucks appearing literally out of nowhere right in front of you, and you've barely got a couple seconds to take them out before they crash into you and explode. And then you've got fuckers constantly driving up your ass, shooting you in the back, and yeah, you've got shit like mines you can throw out to get rid of them, but it's still annoying when you're having to do it constantly, especially when there's loads of them ganging up on you. Although you can admittedly just ignore them for the most part and you'll be fine. They don't do all that much damage and half the time they just miss you anyway. It's just irritating having them constantly chasing you all over the place. Especially when you get out the car and the bastards run you over. Fuck you! Oh, and even though you can't clip through civilians, you can just phase through shit like streetlights and trash cans and shit, but not fire hydrants for some reason. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Even more so when you consider the fact you can easily get stuck on walls, even though you're nowhere fucking near them. So anyway, you eventually make it to the museum where we can finally take on Mr. Freeze. And I like that rather than make a big dramatic entrance through the skylight like in the film, we just mosey in through the front door. But before we can get to the action, we've first got to advance time, cause turns out the robbery hasn't actually started yet. What? Why? Well, you see, the game works off some kind of internal clock feature where story events won't actually take place until a certain day and time. Notice that you have an on-screen clock telling you the time, and on the save and load screens it'll say a day 1 and shit. What is this, fucking Dead Rising or something? What do we need this shit in a fucking Batman game for? Yeah, I remember that bit from the film, where Batman arrives at the museum early and so has to stand around for half an hour, swiping on Tinder and playing a few rounds of Candy Crush, waiting for the bad guys to turn up. So yeah, if you come to the museum before you're supposed to, you've either got to go away and pass the time until the robbery starts, or you can just advance time in the status screen, I guess like in the Elder Scrolls or Fallout. Cause yeah, that's the kind of shit I expect from a Batman game. Hell, I almost wouldn't be surprised if they stuck crafting in there as well. I'm sure they would have if this came out today. But anyway, once you reach the proper time, Arnie finally decides to show up and we can get a proper look at the combat, which, yeah, Arkham Asylum, eat your heart out. Yeah, just like pretty much everything else in this game, the combat, well, to put it generously, leaves a lot to be desired, even for the time. Firstly, just cause of the awful movement and controls, but secondly, again, like pretty much everything else in this fucking game, they somehow managed to make it way more annoying and complicated than it has to be. You've got a couple options. You can use your fists to beat the shit out of the fuckers, and you've also got a few gadgets like batarangs and bat bombs and shit. And while that's pretty cool, the way it's implemented completely drags it down. Basically, you've got two modes or whatever what you can switch between with L1, both of which have different moves and abilities. There's Adventurer mode and Combat mode. As the name suggests, Combat mode is what you use when you want to go hand to hand, and Adventurer mode mostly has all your platforming abilities, but it's also where you use your gadgets as well. So yeah, if you want to use different abilities and gadgets and shit, you have to remember to keep switching between the two modes. And when you don't, you end up pressing the right buttons but not doing the thing you want to do, which can lead to you wasting time and gadgets and getting the shit kicked out of you. All just because of the fact that added so many combat moves that they didn't have enough buttons for them all, so they had to have two modes. Like in combat mode, you've got two punch buttons, for both rights and lefts. The same for kicks, because why? Why not just have one mode, with a button to punch, one to kick, one to use your gadgets, and another to jump, like what they had in Spider-Man? Why'd they have to overcomplicate it? So yeah, instead of the completely silly but entertaining ice skate fight like at the start of the movie, because I guess that was just too complicated to achieve at the time, we just have to run clumsily around beating the shit out of these fuckos. Fucking discount Michelin men over here, and all you really have to do is just mash circle to spam this axe kick looking thing or whatever, since that's the best move to keep them from fighting back. Wow, real fun combat. Half the time, the enemies can't even find you because the AI's about as smart as an ostrich on benzo, so they'll either just wander around aimlessly or just stand and stare at you. Like, are you gonna fucking do something or what? And then we've got to deactivate the energy shield thing protecting the diamond so we can get it, even though I would have thought that would just make it easier for the bad guys to get it as well, but whatever, like I'll give a shit. And how do we do that? Well, there's actually a couple things what can happen. If you mess around for long enough fucking up bad guys, then Mr. Freeze will just do it for you. Okay, thanks for that. But if you beat them, I don't know, fast enough I guess, then old Frosty Boy himself will come and fight you. And he's not hard either. Again, you've just got to spam the axe kick to pummel his ass, and that's it. After which he'll pussy out, the shield's deactivated, and then you've just got to take the diamond. Cause yeah, what's the best way to stop the bad guys from stealing the thing? Why, steal it yourself, of course. Yeah, makes sense to me. And then we're done here, right? Well, not quite, since now we've got to look around for clues as to where Arnie's gonna strike next. Oh yes, get used to that. So yeah, you've just got to run around here, picking up all the question mark things you can find, and then it's back to the Batcave for more baby's first CSI. Oh joy. And if you thought things were annoying and complicated enough already, strap in cause oh, we're just getting started. So after analysing the clues, we figure out that Mr. Freeze is after more diamonds, and so has his guys hitting random jewellery stores around the city, and we've got to stop them. But which jewellery stores? And when? See, there's multiple stores, they all get hit at different times, and the clues telling you which ones you've got to go to are all randomised. So pretty much every time you play, you get a different set of clues leading to different levels or encounters or whatever. And that might sound like a pretty cool feature, gives the game more replay value, more incentive for you to go back through and see what happens if you try a different path. But it also means it's hard to know when you're on the right track, cause the fucking track keeps changing on you. And also, from what I've read, some jewellery stores you've got to do for the story and others you don't actually have to for some reason. Yeah, I don't get it, cause once again it's overcomplicated for no good fucking reason whatsoever. Why couldn't they just be like, oh no, Mr. Freeze's guys are robbing jewellery stores around the city. Here's the stores, go stop them. Why do we have to fuck around with this shit? I mean, does this sound like fun? Does it sound like I'm having fun right now? Well, in case you can't tell, no, I'm not having fun. I'm not a happy lad right now, even less so than usual. And yeah, I know Batman isn't just about beating the shit out of bad guys. I know he does detective style stuff as well, so I understand why they would want to have that in the game, but it still didn't have to be this fucking arduous and annoying. But anyway, once you've deciphered the random shite you found at the museum and got to one of the stores at the time you meant to, you've just got to fight your way through more living crash test dummies and find and retrieve the diamonds before they do. So once again, to prevent the stores from being robbed, you've got to rob them yourself. Oh no, we're not robbing the stores, we're just keeping the diamonds safe until Mr. Freeze has been dealt with, at which point we'll give them back. Sure, Bruce, sure. In fact, are we sure this isn't just some elaborate scheme between Batman and Mr. Freeze to corner the world's diamond market? Mr. Freeze pretends to try and steal the diamonds so Batman can pretend to stop him and take the diamonds for safekeeping, but then they just steal them for themselves. I mean, this story's already dumb enough as it is, so yeah, I might actually just buy that. But yeah, just gotta beat up some guys and get some diamonds. Should be simple, right? Mate, if you have to ask that after everything so far, you obviously haven't been paying attention. So to answer your question, no, it's not simple. It's anything but simple. In fact, it's the exact opposite of simple. Just like everything else in this stupid fucking game. And what makes me say that? Well, for starters, you've got to go around these fucking jewellery stores which are about as complicated as the mansion from Resident fucking Evil. Seriously, they're fucking mazes, with loads of tight corridors that branch off in different directions. Secret doors and passages, switches, elevators. There's places where you'll just randomly fall through the floor and end up in the fucking basement. Just, who designed these fucking places? Fucking H.H. Holmes? I like that if you stop moving for a few seconds, Batman will just kinda look around, and it reminds me of the John Travolta Pulp Fiction meme, which is extremely appropriate considering that's how I felt for pretty much my entire time playing this shit. And funny that I should mention Resident Evil once again, cause that brings me to another thing that's really wrong with this game. Oh really? Another one? Yeah, and that is, not only are the movement, the controls, the combat, the gameplay in general all absolute shite, but the camera is as well. Wow, big shock. For the most part, it just follows along behind you like in any other third-person action-adventure game, but they couldn't even get that shit right since, like, the movement, it's really heavy and clunky, so it's both hard and frustrating to get it to face the way you want it to. But on top of that, again, just cause apparently the word simple just isn't in this developer's vocabulary, the game also uses fixed camera angles. Yep, just like in Resident Evil. And as you can imagine, it's just as annoying here as it is in that fucking game. So you'll just be running around and then out of nowhere the camera will suddenly jump to a completely different angle, cause that's not jarring at all, and of course means that you now can only see what the camera sees, and can't move the fucking thing to see what's going on around you, or to get a better look at something. It's particularly annoying when you're going through these jewellery stores since there's lots of narrow corridors where for starters it's already hard to move around and fight in, but then you've got the camera jumping from one place to the next, and there's loads of times where you can't see where you're going or what you're doing or what's going on around you. Just why? Why couldn't we just have regular third person? What, was it too difficult to get that shit to work in tight spaces? Then what you make them so fucking tight for? I mean, they managed that shit just fine in the fucking Mummy, so why not here? fuck me, I can't believe I'm actually comparing that piece of shit favourably to something. They even have it in places where it doesn't even make sense, where it's not even needed, like at this bit in the museum. Seriously, why the fuck does the camera have to change angles there? It just makes it harder to move in a straight line and easier to fall over the fucking edge. So yeah, the camera does you no favours, especially in these bits. But it gets worse. Oh really? I'd never have thought. What now, pray tell? What, do you only have so long to do it, otherwise the bad guys will get away with the diamonds? Well, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if you spend too long fucking around, which you inevitably will on your first couple tries as you try to figure out which way you're supposed to go, then out of nowhere it'll be like, oh no, Frosty's got away with the diamonds. And yeah, you're fucked. Nothing you can do about it, except load the game and try again. And of course there's no counter or anything to tell you how long you've got before you fail, so you've just got to get through as fast as you can and fuck around as little as possible, which believe me is a lot easier said than done. Basically, the only way to beat these bits is to go through them enough times that you can remember where to go and how not to get lost, cause once again, that just sounds like so much fun, doesn't it? Although admittedly, it's not the end of the world if they get away with the diamonds, it's actually the clues to figure out where you're supposed to go next what are more important. But the thing is, from what I've read, the more diamonds Mr. Freeze gets his hands on, the stronger he is in the final fight. And if he gets all of them, apparently he's like virtually invincible. So it's still a good idea to keep as many of them out of his hands as possible. So yeah, like I said, you're really after the clues to figure out where you're supposed to go next. But even that can be a pain since they're often hidden in hard to reach places. And again, they're randomised, so there's no guarantee you're going to get decent clues to help figure out where you need to go. But you can also find clues just lying around the city while on your travels. Say you'll come across crime scenes marked by police cars parked at the side of the road where you'll be able to find more clues. Or at least that's what the game says, but I usually couldn't find any. And again, does that really sound like fun? Just driving round and round this dreary city looking for clues, especially with all the random fuckers constantly trying to kill you just because. But there's probably one other thing you're wondering. Where the fuck's Robin at? I mean, the game is called Batman and Robin, so where is old Bird Boy? Well, turns out, not only can you also play as Boy Wonder himself right from the start, cause why wouldn't you want to play as this guy?
I want a car. Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
But you can also play as Batgirl. Loop me up, Uncle Alfred. From the start too, even though Barbara Wilson doesn't actually become Batgirl until pretty late in the film. And how do we switch between them? Is it like in GTA 5 or something? I mean, this is kinda like GTA Gotham City after all. Well, no, because I guess that was just too complex to achieve at the time. Nah, instead you've got to go back to the Batcave where there'll be these, I don't know, chambers or whatever what let you turn into Batman, Robin and Batgirl respectively. I guess that's just where they live when they're not fighting crime on the streets of Gotham. But what exactly is the difference between them? Well, first of all, each character has their own attributes, like strength, speed and agility. Batman's of course the strongest, but he's slower and less agile. Oh really? You don't say! Robin has the best agility, so he can jump higher and reach areas you can't without gadgets otherwise. And Batgirl's the fastest, which is also the weakest. Little sexist pigs. So yeah, it's cool that you can play as different characters, even though in the end it doesn't really matter all that much. Robin and Batgirl move a bit faster, but that doesn't mean they're any better to control. They're just as clunky and annoying, and they're even worse on the road. Yeah, each character also has their own vehicle. Robin and Batgirl each have their bikes or whatever, which since they're much smaller and lighter than the Batmobile, makes them even worse to control because the controls are even more sensitive. So pretty much every time you try to turn, you just go careening all over the place. But what about the presentation side? As if it really matters at this point. Well, if the gameplay, to put it charitably, isn't very good, the visuals are at least okay, I guess. The graphics are decent enough for the time, the art style does a good job of capturing the dark and noirish look and tone Batman's known for, and the environments do resemble locations from the film, like the museum and the Batcave. The character models are fine enough as well, although the faces are a bit, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the face George Clooney makes whenever someone mentions Batman and Robin around him.
I always apologize for Batman.
There's no voice acting, except for just some random voice clips taken from the film.
You're not sending me to the cooler.
So yeah, not much to say, although some of the generic fight sounds for both Batman and the bad guys are pretty funny, when they're just going huh, 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 huh. The soundtrack's fine enough, it's mostly just the music from the film as well as what sounds like some random generic sounding tracks just made for the game, and yeah, like I say, it's fine. So anyway, yeah, I'm still here going around looking for these fucking diamonds and clues and shit, and no, I'm not having any more fun than I was before. Especially since if you spend too long messing around in this robbery, which isn't hard considering it's just as much a fucking maze as all the other ones, then Mr. Freeze shows up again, you've got to fight him off to stop him from getting the diamonds. And even though I said before that he's not hard, he can still be a pain in the arse, again mostly just cause of the terrible movement. See, if you get up close to him, it's not too hard to just spam the axe kick to stun lock him or whatever and then just beat the shit out of him. But he's pretty dangerous when he's at range since he's got a gun that does a fair bit of damage if he hits you with it. And since you move so slowly and awkwardly, it's a lot easier said than done to get out of his line of fire. And if he hits you, then that also knocks you back, so it's even harder to get near him. Especially with him doing fucking cartwheels and shit all over the place. I don't remember him ever doing that in the film. Yeah, I'd like to see fucking Arnie do a cartwheel while wearing all that shit. And if he kills you, what then? Do you get to try again, right from where you left off? What do you think? Yeah, as if this game couldn't be any more of a wanking piece of shit, they made sure to add the #1 thing I hate in these fucking games. Say it with me, guys. No fucking checkpoints. Yep, if you get killed, rather than start again relatively close to where you left off, it kicks you back to the main menu and you've got to load the game, which you can only save at the back computer. And I don't know about you, but I don't see any back computers around here. So yeah, when you load, you start at either the back cave or one of the other back computers dotted around the city, and you've got to make your way back over to wherever you were when you got killed. I mean, why couldn't we just go back to the start of the bit, when we first entered the building? What's the point of making us go through this shit again, other than just to waste our fucking time? And you know what? I can't do it anymore. I have started and restarted this game multiple times to try and find the best way through. I've tried guides, walkthroughs, cheats, and nothing works. This game is just so fucking convoluted and complicated that even when using guides, it's still a fucking nightmare. There seriously hasn't been a single session with this game that hasn't ended with me rage quitting. So yeah, I didn't want to do this. I tried. I really did. I've given this game chance after chance. But it's nothing more than a waste of time, and I'm done having my time wasted. So yeah, this is another one that I won't be finishing, despite my best efforts. But even then, I feel I've seen enough to give an informed opinion of it. I mean, I can't see it getting any better, which is a shame, since from the look of the walkthroughs I've watched, it looks like there's plenty shit to make fun of later on. But like I said, I can't do it. I won't. I'm done. So yeah, that was Batman and Robin on PS1. And in conclusion, fuck me, and you thought the film was bad? The film's the fucking Dark Knight compared to this shit. I'd rather watch the film a million times over than play this absolute load of wank again. This is seriously the worst game I've ever played. I know I've been saying that quite a bit lately, but I'm being 100% honest here. This is the worst game I've ever played, at least out of the ones I've done reviews on. Independence Day, The Phantom Menace, The Mummy, Driver, GTA, I'd play any of those again before this shit. The controls and movement, both on foot and driving, are absolutely awful to the point that they alone make the game practically intolerable to play. The combat's sluggish and boring, the camera's annoying as fuck, the open world's empty and pointless. But I think the biggest reason why the game's so bad is that it just makes everything way more complicated than it has to be. I mean, different fucking modes to use hand-to-hand combat and gadgets, fixed camera angles and tight spaces just for no reason, finding and analysing clues in the back computer to figure out where to go next in this oversized open world, having a Dead Rising style timescale thing where events don't happen until certain times, and you can miss things if you don't get there on time. Just why? Why bother with all this shit for fucking Batman and Robin of all things? I mean, all we needed was a daft action game where you run around beating up Mr. Freeze's guys. That's all it needed to be. But you added all this extra shit on top, which in the end just amplifies the game's many other flaws and takes it to a whole other level of annoying. I mean, if I can say something nice, it's that I can't fault the developers for ambition. It seems they really wanted to do something big and impressive, and some aspects of it are, like the big open world. That was pretty impressive for the time. But they just added so much that they made the thing way more complicated and irritating than it had to be. But still, even if they didn't bother with all that shit, it wouldn't have been anywhere near enough to save it, since it's still completely flawed in virtually every other regard. So yeah, is this truly the worst game I've ever played? Honestly, apart from shit I played knowing it was bad, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Ghostbusters on NES, just cause I saw them on AVGN, I'm gonna say yes. I hate this game with every fibre of my being, and I never want to so much as look at it again for the rest of my fucking days. So yeah, stay clear of this one at all costs. And that's about all I've got to say. Jesus Christ, the things I do for you people. This one was hard. I was seriously considering giving up on the video and reviewing something else, just cause I could hardly bear the thought of playing this shit again, and unfortunately there just came a point where I couldn't stand it no more. I don't like having to do this, but sometimes you've just got to make the decision to cut something off. So yeah, sorry about this, and also that it took a bit longer than usual. The game was just so soul-sucking that I could barely bring myself to play the thing and work on the video, and also my PC was being a piece of shit again. Speak to me! But anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, then leave a like. If you didn't, then tell me to go fuck myself. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we're making good progress. So if you enjoy my content and have yet to subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it if you would do so. And as always, thank you so much to everyone who already has. And if you want to support the channel further, then consider donating to my Patreon. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.